Prepare, respond, survive. When seconds count, train with the best. Fire Facilities, custom steel towers built for real-world fire training. Be ready, be resilient. For more information, visit www.firefacilities.com. Hi, Chris McClune here with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Welcome to this episode of our podcast. Today is going to be Inside Fire Facilities, and my guest today is Zach Willard. He is the General Manager of Fire Facilities. So Zach, thank you very much for joining in here. For those who don't know Fire Facilities yet, could you just give a real quick background on the company?
Yeah, so Fire Facilities manufactures steel fire training towers. We've been around since the early 1990s. Our first tower went out to Traverse City, Michigan, and something a little exciting fact is still in use today. So we're now 35 years in with that tower, and we send replacement parts as needed. You can imagine after 35 years of burning what that does to a tower. But we're happy to say and proud to say that's our tower. So what we really do is we make live fire training accessible and then also repeatable. So we can put additional people into the same scenario or change scenarios, but be able to utilize our buildings for just about anything you can imagine as it relates to fire training, hose advancement, roof chop out. I mean, there's so many possibilities with our training towers. That's why our customers keep coming back for more.
Now, so speaking of the live fire, we know on our end, those are some of the most popular classes that we offer are the live fire classes. And when why do you say live fire training isn't a luxury but a necessity? And then on top of that, how does Fire Facilities deliver on that need?
Yeah, so live fire training is super important because when you get into situations where heat, combustible gas, smoke layer inside buildings, you don't get that from the simulated smoke technology and radiant heat lamps. You have to have fire inside of that structure to really simulate what you're putting your municipality's firefighters in each and every day. And with the ever-changing combustible load inside of houses, inside of residences, commercial spaces, fires are burning a lot hotter and a lot faster than they were 35, 40 years ago. So that live component really kind of seals the gap in your training on what to expect once you go into a fully involved fire or an incipient stage fire. And with our buildings, you can kind of simulate all of that. That being said, our buildings are built to burn in repeatedly. So our training towers usually always have a burn room, and that burn room is either lined with the West Temp panels or the West Tech insulation system. West Temp panels are your classic refractory boards, 4x4s, a pretty easy mechanism. And so we've had those for the entire duration. So for 35 plus years, manufactured under us, warranted by us. We really take pride in that. However, in the last 15, 20 years, we've come up with a new system. It's the West Tech insulation system. And what it is it's stainless steel panels inside that burn room with insulation behind them. So your hot face or inside the room can go up to 1,800 degrees, which when you're training you never need to go that high, but that's what the panels are rated for, because we all know that the one hay bale turns into two hay bales, which turns into maybe a pallet broken down inside that room, and you don't think about it until it's on fire, and it's very hard to kind of get the temperature to come down. People try to open windows, but when you open windows you introduce more oxygen, so it actually gets hotter, and so we've kind of over-engineered our West Tech system to account for some of those mistakes that you may make on the fire ground. And they're not mistakes, they're just learning the process of how to use the burn facility, in the best way possible for training. But what the West Tech system does is those stainless steel panels provide a way to kind of shield the entire building from your straight stream, so you can shoot water directly at that panel, the stainless steel panels, and you don't get damaged like you would with your refractory boards. So your 2x2 or your 4x2 or even the 1x1s now are pretty popular. When you shoot water that's room temperature at that while you're burning at 800 degrees, that panel's going to crack. So that's why we developed that West Tech system. It's meant to actually flex with the room. So as it heats up, that metal will flex. And if you notice when they're installed, they're never the panels are never, especially in the box trims, they're never screwed in to the system on both sides. It's just one side, so that panel can actually bend and flex. So you can take some of that heat and disperse it. The nice part about the West Tech system too is hot face 1800 degrees, your cold face on the backside 300 degrees, 350 degrees or less. So you're actually dissipating quite a bit of heat in that wall cavity. So you can have a burn going on in one room and something going on outside of the room and not feel all of that heat outside the room. So if you want to practice search and rescue going up a stairwell, you're not limited to just, hey, we're burning in the building. We have to shut down the rest of the building for everything else. Now it's always good practice, depending on your SOPs, which that's a whole nother thing. What you do inside of that building at one time. But we really try to make it, not just burn or no burn, it's burn and be able to do something else.
Whenever we talk about live fire training, we want that realism. We want it to be realistic, but at the same time, we want it to be safe for the firefighters, especially our newest rookies going in there maybe for the first time to put out a fire. You talked about West Tech insulation, but there are some other engineering systems built into these training towers. For example, the Scout temperature monitoring and smoke evacuation. How does that also add to that realism, but also maintaining the safe environment for firefighters?
That's an excellent question, and I'm glad you brought that up, because there is some departments that have come to us for maybe different drills that, a pike pull drill through 2 floors to knock out drywall. And we can't endorse that as the manufacturer, because who's going to protect that opening through the attic space when you're not, we're not out there all the time. We can put a guardrail up, but are you going to use the guardrail? So there's different aspects to the training tower that a lot of people don't see behind the scenes. And really, it's a risk management evolution for us, but then also the end user. And so, we have developed some safety mechanisms within our towers that are really important. And when we go do on-site orientations, we spend a lot of time with the customer, the end user, on those safety features, because they are the difference between, good training and good documentation and, hey, this is a free for all, and it turns into, let's see how hot we can get this thing before, it goes south. And so this, like you mentioned, the Scout temperature monitor is one of them, and the Fire Watchman. Both of those are temperature monitoring systems. So with our burn rooms, we put thermocouples in the burn room. So you typically have 2 on the ceiling and 1 on the wall. And what those allow you to do is monitor your temperatures in real time. Both of those systems are able to be hooked up to a cellular device, which is kind of exciting. So your training officer or whoever's on-site safety can actually hook up to those systems if they're not wanting to stand right by the monitoring system, and stand anywhere around the building and be able to see those temperatures in real time read out on their device. And so what that allows you to do is your safety officer can be right there with the evolution, obviously not inside the hot zone, but watching to see what's happening in there and be able to make an executive decision on what needs to happen for this training to continue. So the thermocouples, like I said, are on the ceiling and the wall. They allow you to look at a couple different things. A lot of people focus on the ceiling temperature just because, hey, fire right here, flame impingement goes up to the ceiling. I like to tell people that the ceiling is kind of your first watch. Hey, are we getting too hot? What's happening here? But your wall temperature monitor is really telling you what's happening in that room from a scientific point of view. And so that's where you start to get some of your heat rolling down the side of the wall. And when you open that door, you're going to feel that wall temperature before you feel the ceiling temperature. So there's not, it's not just a system to be in place for warranty. Yes, we look at it for warranty work, but it's really kind of a classroom exercise on, hey, what is our fire doing in here? And in real life, you're not going to know that. But in the real world, if you open a door and you feel that same type of heat when you open one of fire facilities doors, you'll know exactly what's happening and what stage that fire's in. So you can start to make smarter decisions as you go through, real, on-scene evaluation of a fire ground. That being said, so that's our watchman and then our scout tent monitor. And then also we have an exhaust fan. The exhaust fan and ventilation is huge in our building. So if there's ever an emergency on site, all of our buildings have a red pull stop where if you pull the button, air gets evacuated, new air gets entered into the building. All the lights turn on, and then if there's any automatic door closures, they're all opened up, so you can 100% evacuate that building and have light. And so if you have live fire going on, it's a little bit scary because you are pulling quite a bit of air in there. But when you have smoke, simulated smoke, anything like that, it pulls all that dirty air out, puts clean air in, and you're able to see. So, that's just another piece of the puzzle for us is how do we control either accidents or, hey, we're not comfortable or we haven't been in this building before. We're going to get it really hot or really smoky. We don't know our way out. Hey, get that pull stop, and then we can, have a conversation with, clean air and be able to see in front of us.
Those are a couple of the ways that fire facilities, towers, makes training both safe and realistic. But what we didn't talk about were some of the challenges that occur for you in being able to provide that safe training environment. So, what are some of the biggest challenges in replicating the conditions that we would see as firefighters while maintaining that controlled environment, safe environment?
Right. So we always say there's a way to do it right, and then there's a way to do it safe. And we gravitate towards the safety side. One, because we want, every firefighter who comes to train in our tower to go home in the same shape they came in. But there's a lot of different things, like we alluded to earlier, with different design considerations, right? Hey, we can't endorse some of these. And so really it's just, two-stop control. It's engineering control. And then, hey, if you come to us, we make custom towers. That's what we do. We like to make people's ideas come to life. But when we sit down and kind of explain, hey, these are the design considerations, maybe let's take a step back and do we really need, the super sloped roof? Well, if that's something your jurisdiction requires, we can do that. But we're going to also need to put additional guardrails or foot rails, or maybe line a roof with Duraback coating so you can at least have some grip on that roof. Because at the end of the day, we want to set up departments for success and be able to train repeatedly. Then we have one accident and we're shutting down the training tower to evaluate how we get past this and move forward. And so that's some of the safety considerations. And then some of the design considerations are kind of interesting, and this kind of takes a step back from necessarily safety, but puts us in the code book, that puts us in IBC, puts us in NFPA. So NFPA 1402, 1403 is the live fire training facilities code. And that is, it's not going away. It's just migrating into NFPA 1400. So there's a new code standard that's going to cover everything kind of in one, which makes a lot of sense. We've been petitioning for it for years. Instead of having two different books, everything's going to be under one NFPA 1400. But what NFPA 1402 currently states is these buildings need to be designed per IBC and local jurisdictional building requirements. And so, the difference with fire facilities towers versus maybe some of our competitors' towers is, all of our stuff is by the book as far as design and engineering goes. So we do seismic criteria. We can build in California. We can build in high seismic zones. We do have bracing. And then we also include foundation design. So we can go through the entire life cycle of that building through the manufacturer, which makes us really unique. And then, a lot of our stuff, like I say, we meet IBC, so we can build these without a building permit, and we don't need a variance. So a lot of people, classify these as training props. They are training props, but at the end of the day, some of our buildings are 5 stories, 7 stories, 10 stories. They're more in line with a building. And so we feel the need that, we feel strongly that we need to meet the building code. So we kind of go down that route of, hey, we're just going to shoot for the building code. If we can meet the building code, we know we'll meet NFPA 1402. And so let's pick the more stringent code, and then our customers don't have to apply for those variances. So there's a lot of different things wrapped up into what fire facilities is. But, we like to do right by our customers, our local officials, and, our state officials and government. That way there's never any question on, what's right, what's wrong. We do it right by the book.
I wanted to stay on that topic of design for just a minute. Not so much on the code side, but getting into the units themselves. You've got mobile units, you've got high-rise towers. How do you design them to accommodate different types of training? You've already mentioned how you could be burning and doing a search and rescue evolution at the same time, but there are myriad different types of training evolutions. I mean, we could even get into helicopter landing. So like how do you guys design these structures to accommodate these different types of training?
Right. So I think the most unique part about fire facilities is when you call, you get with your regional sales rep, and we have got the territory map on our website. But what we do is we come out and we sit down and we ask you honest questions. What's your typical response? Do you have any hotels in your jurisdiction? Do you have hospitals? Do you have nursing homes? Do you have apartments? Do you have sloped roof? Just if you call or have an idea of what you have in your jurisdiction, we like to match our buildings to the jurisdiction they serve, because there is very different requirements or needs based on municipalities. And I think that's what makes us different is we list, our 17 standard models, and really it's 34 because we can do OSHA stairs and we can do IBC stairs. So we have kind of these base models that we like to work off of, but if that base model doesn't fit into your description, we can make a custom building. We make custom buildings all the time. Some people want 10-foot floor to floor. Some people want 12-foot floor to floor. So we can customize everything because we own, the manufacturing. We manufacture all our own parts and pieces. And then also we have in-house engineering. So we're licensed in all 50 states in-house. So I don't have to go to a third-party engineer to make a decision or to ask if this will work. I can ask my engineering team in-house. So I think that's unique. But really, our buildings are supposed to serve the people, in that community that they're built in. And so that's where, the apartments, the high rises, you kind of get the hotels, right? Everyone's got a hotel that's 4 floors. Well, it's perfect. Put a 4-floor tower section in and have a standpipe in that. Now you get all the bang for your buck on moving water up and down the stairs, and you can get that hose across. And so if you have a tower section connected to a residence, now you're going down a hotel hallway, you can search, you can have 8 doors on each side, mock up your simulation, and be able to search in that. And oh, by the way, 2 of those rooms, are burn rooms, so you can pick either side. So when you go to replicate the scenario, it changes every single time. And so if we can get our buildings to match the jurisdictional requirements, we've done our job. And the nice part is we've got enough of these in service. We've got over 950 towers in service that when people call and they're interested, we tell them our existing customers are our best sales reps. Go look at their tower. Go find what you like, what you don't like. If you need a variable pitch roof, if you need a tower section, go walk on theirs. And so we're very open with our existing customers and our new customers. We want them to touch the product. Unfortunately, a lot of our products we can't just bring out. They're too big. And so it really is, hey, go find somewhere close to you. Here's a list of all the towers close. We'll meet you there, or we can get you there, and really kind of come up what's going to work in your community after you've seen our tower, and what do you think you can do better. And so we always try to challenge them is, this is our existing tower. Find something makes it better that's going to work for your community.
We've talked a lot about, kind of where we are right now, what you offer right now, how you're designing currently. But, we always have to look ahead. There are trends within the fire service that impact live fire training. And so I guess, as you look forward, what are some of the trends that you see shaping the future of live fire training facilities? And I guess, what are some of the innovations that might be available now, or that we might need to look at in the future to also help shape the future of these structures?
You bet. So I was actually on a podcast with Jake Barnes, who 3-point firefighter, great guy. What we talked about that's going to shape the future of fire training is decon. Decon is going to be so critical as we move forward into the NIOSH testing of combustibles in these burn rooms, the testing of, even LP systems. They do have gases that they produce. So I think, we get to this point of what's the next big thing for fire facilities? It's going to be our decon area. We've already got some drawings together on how we want to achieve this decon area, outside of the burn rooms, away from the tower. So you're not kind of cross-contaminating. And so I think that piece of fire training is decon. And then, the next piece to that, I really think, is integrating technology, which we do good right now. There's room for improvement always. But we do partner with Simtech for gas props. I think gas props are really exciting, and they're just kind of on the tip of the iceberg right now. They're pretty real, but I think there's a little bit more work to get them more real, but we incorporate them in our tower. So kind of one of the exciting pieces is we have a garage fire or a garage burn room, and we use a propane prop that's a car, and we're able to put that car either in the garage or outside of the garage or in between the garage, because that's a very weird scenario when you're pulling up in a truck and you've got a car on fire and it's halfway in the garage, halfway out of the garage. What do you protect? What do you do? Do you, go in and put water on it right away? Do you look at blocking the tires so the car doesn't roll into your apparatus or injure people? So there's a lot of different scenarios. And so I think gas props allow us to do a lot cleaner. And then they're also, very versatile. They don't burn, as hot. And it's not that they don't burn as hot, but they're more controllable than a Class A fire. And so you start looking at your fuel loads, that type of stuff. I think gas props are probably number 2. And then, along with the gas props is all the technology to monitor everything, in that building. So Simtech does a great job with, having thermal resistant cameras, so we can actually watch fire being knocked down in the buildings, which is kind of exciting. Watching search and rescue patterns, training on ticks, going in and out, following the hose, the cold side, making sure you're headed towards the right direction. So, gas props, technology, but at the end of the day, decon if we want to keep burning combustible material.
Having said all of that, if there was one thing you'd like people to walk away with today, either about live fire training structures in general or fire facilities specifically, what would it be?
Live fire training is super important to the fire industry as a whole, but then for all the constituents that rely on municipal response to their emergency. You have to get it right. There's very little room for error, and being able to train realistically on response to flame is critical. And just having the tools and being comfortable in that scenario, I think that's what we're trying to do. We'll never be able to accomplish a house fire with a one bedroom involved because there's too many variables. What's the bed? Is the bed a water bed, or is it all plastic, or is it polyester? Or what's the couch? You're never going to get the fuel load right, but if you can get the feeling right, it makes that scene a lot safer for everyone involved because everyone's on the same page on decision making, on where to make entry and what the game of or the plan of attack is. And so I think that's the pieces. You're never going to replicate exactly what you're going to show up to, but you could sure as heck be comfortable doing it and having that realism and that experience in your training.
Where can we find out more information on fire facilities?
Yeah, so Fire Facilities has a website, www.firefacilities.com. There is everything you'll need to see there. They really, really good website, actually. I may have been a part of designing it. But you've got your regional sales rep map, and then you've also got a phone number, contact information, emails, everything you'd want to see on that is on that website.
All right, perfect. Well, Zach, thank you for sitting down with me today to talk about fire facilities and, also live fire training in general. If you would like to view previous podcasts, all of our podcasts are archived at www.fireapparatus.com/podcast. So again, my thanks to you, Zach, for sitting down with me today. Have a good one, everyone, and stay safe. Prepare, respond, survive. When seconds count, train with the best. Fire Facilities, custom steel towers built for real-world fire training. Be ready, be resilient. For more information, visit www.firefacilities.com.